This video is entitled Normalization and the Physical Data Model and goes along with Chapter 11 of the book Introduction to Database Systems Modeling and Administration. I'm Dr. Reneau from Shawnee State University, and I'll be taking you through this video. Second normal form. So we have our data in first normal. It's in a database table. We've got a good primary key, maybe concatenated, maybe not. We've got everything atomic. We can shuffle the rows. Everything is good. Now, if we have a concatenated primary key, we need to find those attributes that are dependent on part but not all of that concatenated primary key. For instance, if we had a table of customers with their favorite items, so a customer would appear multiple times and their favorites would appear multiple times, or each, customer would have favorite A, customer would have favorite B, second customer would have favorite C and D, and you. So we would find and say, well, the customer name and the customer address and the customer phone and email, well, that's not dependent upon the item number. That's dependent upon the customer number. So we would create a new table, a new entity called customer, and we would move the customer columns out of the main table into that new subtable and use a foreign key relationship to implement the one-to-many relationship between customer and our table. We would do the same then for the item or other attributes that we might have concatenated in our primary key. If we put a surrogate key in first normal form, we're already in second normal because there are no partial dependencies. And so that's second normal. I just want to stress this again. A partial dependency is a data field that's dependent on part, but not all, of a composite primary key, of a concatenated primary key. So if it's dependent upon, like the customer is part of the primary key, or the item number is part of the primary key, or the state abbreviation is part of the primary key, great. We need to split that data out and remove that attribute from the primary key by implementing a foreign key relationship. So before we jump into third normal, I want to define what a transitive dependency is because I'll be using that word a lot in the next slide. A transitive dependency is when a data field is dependent on a field that is not part of the primary key. So for instance, we brought all the customer information out into a separate table, but we have state abbreviation and state name. Well, state abbreviation and state name is dependent upon state abbreviation, not on the customer number. So you can see that would be what we call a transitive dependency. So third normal form is where we try to get rid of all of those transitive dependencies. So to go into third normal form, we have to take the structure from second normal, because if we've not gotten rid of our partial dependencies, we'll never move into third normal. Identify all of our transitive dependencies and then move those transitive dependencies into their own tables using a foreign key, primary key relationship to that new table to eliminate the columns in our table, previous table, and to eliminate all of the repeating rows. This video was probably pretty confusing with all of the talk of first normal, second normal, third normal, transitive dependencies, partial dependencies, and all of that. I know this is probably overwhelming, but once you see some examples of normalization in the future videos, I think it'll all make sense. And you'll come back to this to get your definitions and to make sure you understand what these words mean. There are higher orders of normalization. There's a type of normalization known as a Boyce-Codd normalization, or some people call it 3.5 normal, that eliminates some additional things. There's fourth normal and fifth normal that are used in research and are used in some very specialized databases. But for most business applications, if you can get the data down to a good, solid, clean third normal, I think you'll find it works really well for most applications. This concludes our quick introduction to database normalization. Thank you for watching. If you would like this video and possibly subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. And I hope to see you on future videos.